Hey everyone, Andrew Nagel with Valk9 Designs, and we're back with the next part of the Start to Finish ring series. We're going to be setting some calibrated stones into one of the sides of this ring, while we're also going to start building the setting for the Ethiopian opal that we're setting into the middle of it. So what I'm going to do is take these excess wires that are sticking out of the band and basically cross them over and then to the other side of the ring to form the detailing. We're going to go ahead and flatten out the platform that the stone will be sitting on. Then after we make sure that it's sitting in there pretty evenly, you don't want the cabochon to be rocking back and forth, you want it to be sitting there nice and stable. I'm going to start by forming the swirls for the right side of the ring. We're going to do a more flowy side on one side of the detailing, and then the opposite side will be sort of an angular and textile detailing. I'm going to just form those two swirls using the innermost wires. Then I'm going to pull those outer two kind of over that swirl but on the inside of it, and then those will start to form the inner openings of the weave pattern that will come out of this swirl. And then I'm also going to form the inner part of that detail and then the outer part as well. So those two wires that we curved over the stone are going to open up into the middle two wires that are sitting in between the curls. And then now we're going to form the other side. I'm going to similarly pull those wires a little over the stone, so that way we can form kind of a shelf that'll sit over the side of the cabochon. Straighten out all the wires, make sure everything's looking nice and even. I'm going to go ahead and use pliers to kind of pull up that shelf a little bit more and form it and curve it a little bit more. You don't really want to curl the wires over an opal because the opals are a softer material and they might crack. Seems to be pretty snug and secure in there, so we're ready to go ahead and start forming the shaping on the text side detailing. We're going to bring this down into a channel setting to set the larger topaz facets into this side. Originally I had drawn out the smaller topaz facets going on going into the tech channel, but as I formed this open, I felt that the 3mm stones would be more appropriate for this channel setting. So I'm just going to go ahead and angle a little section for the channel setting, and then I'm going to kind of angle and bend that wire around the swirl detail wires that are coming out of the other side of the ring band. Going to go ahead and angle the innermost wires. We're going to angle them along that curve, but then I'm going to bend them down to form the bottom part of the channel setting. I'm going to go ahead and angle the outer wire to mimic the inner wire and to create that section for the stones to sit in. Now we're going to go ahead and add some 30 gauge to the outermost wire on this detailing. We're going to try and get those ends tucked in underneath the rest of the wires and push that 30 gauge all the way down to the base of those wires where they come out of the ring frame. I'm going to go ahead and just do a simple weave on the beginning of this first part. I'm just going to bring the 30 gauge around all of those base wires to just connect them, and then back over to the outermost wire, kind of run along the outermost wire for a little bit, and then attach them again by going all the way around those wires. I'm going to connect all of the 4 base wires together one more time before I start the weave that's going to help form the channel setting on this side for those 3mm faceted topaz rounds. I'm going to run that 30 gauge down to those middle wires that we bent down and then back up to the innermost wire, wrap it a couple of times around that, and then go back over and around those middle 2 innermost wires and then back to the outermost wire. After I've weaved that together and connected it, I'm going to then form the bottom shelf for the topaz rounds. And what I mean by that is I'm going to spread open the 2 wires that we shaped down and then rebend them so that way they are running parallel with the top 2 wires. This is going to form the bottom groove that the stones will sit in, and then the top 2 wires will act as the, kind of almost as a little bezel over the stones to hold them into place. So we're just going to do a simple cross weave between the 2 bottom wires, and then I'm going to bring that weave up from the bottom right corner to the innermost top corner, and then down to the inner bottom corner and up to the top right corner. This is a not super complicated weave. It sounds really complicated, but basically you're going from one point at the bottom to the opposite point at the top, and then down on the other side, and then over to the opposite point on the opposite side. I highly suggest that you watch my video discussing the channel setting technique, the bar channel setting technique, before attempting this. That'll really explain the different weaves that I'm utilizing here to set these stones. So what you're also going to do is form a cross weave section on those bottom 2 wires long enough to set the 3mm stone on there. So you don't want that bottom platform to go much beyond the 3mm stone, if beyond it at all. You want it to be pretty much the same length as your 3mm stone, or if you're using a larger 4mm stone, it can be a 4mm platform. If you're using like a 2mm stone, you're going to want to make a smaller platform, but you want that platform to be the same size as the stone, so that way when you make this cross weave outside of the stone, it's going to be flush against the side of that stone and hold it in there very securely. So again, you're going to see me go from like the bottom left wire in this instance up to the top right, and then I'm going to go from the top right down to the bottom right, and then from the bottom right to the top left, creating an X cross weave between these 4 wires. Always some minor adjustments and making sure the stone is sitting in the groove the way we want. I like to make sure that the face of the stone is sitting right in between the 2 wires that run along the edges of it. I believe that's called the table of the facet. So we're going to continue that wire along the bottom 2 to form another platform for the next stone. Again, it's going to need to be just as long as the other stone is, which is going to be 3mm again. And so once we've got that shaped up, I'm going to go ahead and continue running my bottom 2 wires along the same direction that the topmost wires are, so that way we can tie all of this together at the end of setting this stone and bring all of those points around the band and set this onto the band. I've got my stones set into the channel setting, and now I'm ready to begin the next X weave on the outside of that stone to help set it in there. These types of channel settings are very secure and hold these faceted stones in there very nicely. We're going to bring this up from the bottom left to the top right wire, then from the top right to the bottom right wire. Go once around that, and then we're going to go from the bottom right up to the top left wire. Go once around the top left, and then we're going to go down to the bottom left. Continuing from the top left to the bottom left, we will just continue that sort of cross weave X pattern to build up a bit more of a detailing along the base wires of this channel setting. Once I've gotten enough of a cross weave going, what I'm going to do is bring one of the 21 gauge square wires back around and bend it along the channel setting that we've already made to kind of form an outermost wall that'll help protect the stones and just keep them in place. This cross weave that we're doing here is the same sort of technique where we're going from an uppermost bar to a lowermost on the opposite side, and then vice versa, and just continue that along the pattern. Again, I highly suggest you watch the bar channel tutorial before you attempt this. So now I'm going to bring one of the square wires down and running along the channel setting. So go on the outside of the stones to protect them. I'm going to try and bend it at the same points that the channel setting is bent at to try and keep everything uniform and looking nice and neat. Once I bring that bar around, I'm going to attach it to the ring band. After a couple of minute adjustments to that bar, we're ready to continue along with the 30 gauge on the remainder of these base wires. I'm just running this along one of the innermost wires to go the rest of the length to the band, just so that way I'm not cutting this weave a little too short, and that way that length of 30 gauge will remain on this square wire, and as we tighten that to the band, it'll keep it nice and secure so that doesn't come unraveled. Gonna check the stone, just make sure that it fits in there nice and secure and where we want it to. And after deciding that it looks pretty stable, we're ready to continue wrapping those wires around the band of the ring and connecting this channel to the base of the ring. As you can see where these swirl wires are directing, that will be where we set the topaz stones onto the other side of the ring next week. Always have a couple of little minute adjustments to make before making the final tie downs. And then once I've brought those ends around the base of the ring a couple of times each, I'm ready to clip off the excess and really secure down those ends to the ring band. I will write in the description that you should probably watch the bar channel tutorial before attempting this stone setting. It gives a much better explanation of the weave process to set those stones in there than I was able to give you in this video. But yeah, so that's what we're going to do for this side. We're going to do a bar channel setting for those two 3mm stones, and then on the other side we're going to do a weave channel setting to set the 2mm white topaz stones into the other side. So I hope you all enjoyed this one. Again, you don't have to follow this specifically. Do a different stone setting, or maybe just add a coil on this side if you don't have, calibrated stones, or get creative with it and maybe just do some sort of weave technique or pattern on the other side. So thank you all so much. I hope you enjoyed this one. Please let me know your thoughts in the comments, and if you want to see any part of this video explained more in depth. And also let me know what else you're wanting to see between like start to finish tutorials, or some other types of weave tutorials, or what you're wanting to view from me. So thank you again, and I hope you have a great weekend.